Hi everybody, this is Dina Pacwa of EmbodyTheSacred.net. I just wanted to share this video with folks because I know a lot of folks have been following on my social media pages what's been going on with our beautiful, amazing, wonderful puppy, Lexi. She's one of our 2 rescue dogs. She's actually not technically a puppy. She's about 5 years old. We rescued her in 2018. She came up here from Texas after spending 5 days on a van to get up here. And she is a beautiful Pharaoh Hound mix. She is absolutely one of the most loving beings I've ever encountered in my life, even though I'm a lifelong pet and animal lover. But she is definitely an exceptional dog. And so many people have been responding and reaching out to send prayers and good thoughts to her as she went through a pretty scary and life-threatening episode with cluster seizures. So she was diagnosed with epilepsy about a year ago, and anybody who's ever had pets or been around people having seizures, it can be pretty frightening and upsetting for all involved, right? So she had seen about 3 different vets, including a holistic vet, was on a special diet, and we were monitoring and tracking the seizures, and we got them down to about 1 every 3 to 5 weeks, and it was more on the mild side, and so it was workable for her condition. Well, for whatever reason, almost 2 weeks ago Sunday night, she had a seizure and started coming out of it and looking like she was doing okay. And then all of a sudden she went back into another one, and then they didn't stop. So that's called cluster seizures. So she had a grand mal seizure, and then it devolved into cluster seizures. And it was absolutely one of the most terrifying things and upsetting things I've ever been through, and I know for my partner Keith as well. So I was hysterical crying, and he's like, "You're gonna have to pull it together." So I did as best I could, and I called our local emergency vet, which is over in Newtown, Connecticut, Newtown Veterinary Specialists, and they were great. So it can be a life-threatening condition when someone or a pet goes into these cluster seizures. So we knew we had to get her there quickly. So poor Keith, is carrying our dog Lexi. She's about 70 pounds. She's not a small dog. Down this icy sidewalk and steps. I don't know how he did it. Like, amazing. And got her in the car and was holding her the whole time as she was seizing as we drove to Newtown, which is about half an hour from here. So she stayed there overnight. They got her semi-stable, but she really needed the expert care of neurologists. So thankfully, there's an amazing hospital not far from here in Brewster, New York, called Guardian Veterinary Specialists, and they have 3 neurologists on staff. So we transported her last Monday. She was pretty heavily sedated, but she was having focal seizures. So she went from grand mal seizures to cluster seizures to focal seizures. So she was having those pretty much, on and off Monday and Tuesday, and then she went into having more grand mal seizures. So the neurologists at Guardian, really took the bull by the horns and tried some different protocols, because for whatever reason, for Lexi, the things that work for most people and pets were not working for her. So they had to try some different things. And she ended up with a tremor on the right side of her body, shaking from like above her eye all the way down to her both front and back legs. So she was still tremoring up until probably 3 or 4 days ago. So she had this tremor. They were able to get the seizures, thankfully, under control, both the grand mal seizures and the focal seizures. And so she was still pretty heavily sedated on all different medications, and I was able to sneak in and see her last Wednesday. So she was in ICU, so it was the equivalent of ICU for pets. And seeing her like that was very traumatic, but I was just glad that she was alive and that she was able to be stabilized. And meanwhile, we've had all these wonderful people praying and sending Reiki and offering support to us. And I'm just so grateful. It really doesn't surprise me in a way that so many people responded to the posts that I shared, because she's just pure love. This dog is just pure love. And what was also really scary was the first couple of days, if not the first few days, the vets were telling us, we don't know, what the long-term effects would be on her brain damage, if her personality would be intact when she came out of it, if she could come out of it, if they could control the seizures, if something like this might happen again. So we really had that decision to make. Is this something that was really going to affect her quality of life? Because we don't believe in having animals suffer. And here she is, this amazing being that, my whole family is extremely attached to. So it was, it was pretty upsetting. That's putting it mildly. We were crying hysterically for days. So I just, being someone who's intuitive and spiritual, I really tried to quiet myself down and see, all right, God, what do we do here? What's the highest and best good for Lexi, for us? What do we do? And it's kind of hard to trust your own intuition when you're in such an emotional state and when it's a being that you care about so deeply. But I really felt like she could come through it and she could come out of it. Now, if that were also not the case, if I really felt like she couldn't, or the vets were saying, it's not looking good, we would have taken other measures, because we don't believe in, making our pets suffer in a long-term fashion. So, and I also am very blessed that I have good friends and colleagues who are very intuitive and even psychic that offered their input, and they felt the same way. So I pushed and I said, we have to fight for her. This beautiful dog is love. She is a conduit for the pure love and light of the Creator, if ever there was one. And love is worth fighting for. And we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars of vet bills. And to be honest, it's not like we own yachts here or setting off penis rockets in our front yard. So, unfortunately, that is a consideration in our situation and for many folks. So, we had a lot going on there, but I just really believed in her. And I kept just, sending my consciousness and my spirit to her. I did shamanic journeying to connect with her. And I kept just showing her images of herself running and playing and happy and with us here. And then the day that I snuck in to see her, I brought her like a stinky t-shirt. I know that probably sounds really kind of gross for the humans, but I brought her a stinky t-shirt so that she would smell us and remember, because the dog's sense of smell is so incredible. And I knew that some part of her brain, some part of her would recognize that smell. So I brought that in, and then a couple of days later, she was coming out of the sedation, and also the vet was saying her brain function and even her higher brain function was really good. She was eating, she was pushing herself up so she could sit up. So she was really looking like she was making some really amazing strides. So we had brought her into the hospital on a Sunday, so this was the following Saturday. So we picked her up on Saturday. She wasn't walking. She still had the tremor on the right side. And, we had to pick her up really with these two harnesses and help her walk. And, we slept with her downstairs, and I've been sleeping, downstairs next to her, and I'm hoping to be able to go to bed tonight for the first time with her in the bedroom with us. But she needed meds, pretty much around the clock. So the first couple of nights she didn't sleep at all. She was pacing. She was, very, just kept waking up a lot. She couldn't really sit down or lie down by herself. So my partner Keith had to help her lie down and get comfortable. But it was like day by day, there were really significant changes. By the second or third day, maybe not even the second day, I would say at least, she was walking by herself. So it was really amazing. I mean, obviously we had to, watch her and be on top of her. So, and, all the prayers were pouring in. People were, sending good energy and Reiki and all sorts of good things in that sense. We were keeping her on her medications. And she was eating great. She was even doing her peepees and poopies outside. So she was doing really, really well. So now it's almost 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, Sunday will be 2 weeks. Today's Friday. So 2 weeks from Sunday will be, when all of that first went down. And now she's off of a couple of her medications already. Today she ran at top speed through the yard. She climbed up and down stairs by herself. She even stood on her hind legs, and looked out the window, and also stood up against our oak tree and barked at a squirrel. So the squirrels really have no idea that she's going to be back full speed very shortly. So their enjoyment of our backyard is limited. But anyway, I just wanted to share, kind of the bigger picture of what was going on here, since so many people have been following and offering their support, that you might want to just hear, what's happened. So basically her diagnosis is idiopathic epilepsy. There doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason to the seizures. I have tracked everything from her food to the weather to the moon cycles to whether I was burning incense or candles that day, and there just does not seem to be, or what she ate, even snacks. And there just has never seemed to be like the same things happening over and over again. So the vets are really, not sure what is really triggering it at this point. So that's why it's called idiopathic epilepsy. She has been on different supplements. She's been on CBD. A number of people have mentioned that. It's not that we wouldn't put her back on that at some point, but really her situation is very complex. She has not responded to, certain medications and interventions the same way as other dogs. Even the development of that tremor was different than what vets usually see. So while, I really appreciate the caring and the suggestions that folks have offered, just, keeping in mind that every animal, every person is different. And sometimes protocols that work for one may not work for another. We're totally open to trying different things for her. We've already tried several. We're on vet number 5 for her right now, and thousands of dollars, into this situation. So we will keep trying. We adore her, and we're so grateful to have her home, and we appreciate everybody's good intentions and prayers for her. So thank you so much. I'll keep you all posted. Thanks for checking in, and I will speak to you soon.